So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Came here to Foster City where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel will wear the proper protective equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff, students, role players, CIDs, and support staff. Police, eyes, throat, and drawing protective territory should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks in the mask and the safe working conditions.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. So this is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands. Back to
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out.
Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face.
Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, dude.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place.
Okay.
So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of
I see.
activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, the NSA, make all the phone calls you want today. The NSA is no longer listening in. Thank you, Rand Paul. What do you say? Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It is the 1st of June. Can you believe it? We're almost into summer here, 2015. Starting off the month of June with a big bang here today. The Senate, late last night, failing to extend the Patriot Act, failing to extend NSA's spying program, and so it is at least temporarily shut down. That's where we start this morning. Good to see you. I hope you had a great weekend. Thanks to Clinton Yates for being here on Friday as a friend of Bill. And into the new week we go with, yes, the big failure to extend the Patriot Act last night. Sadly, the nation mourning the loss of Beau Biden, son of Vice President Joe Biden and former Attorney General of the state of Delaware. And Washington mourning the collapse of the Nats over the weekend in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Not a happy weekend in the press household. Carol was pretty depressed the entire weekend. And we have a new presidential candidate, Martin O'Malley. So all of that coming up here. We've got lots to talk about, and it's good to see you on your local progressive talk radio station this Monday morning. Thank you so much for joining us in Radio Land. Good to see you also. Those of you watching on Free Speech TV, on DirecTV or the Dish Network all around the country, and those of you joining us from foreign lands around the globe on our video stream, TawkrTV, welcome to you as well. We look forward to hearing from you. What you think about the issues of the day, you know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hello to Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
What do you
Nice
say?
to see you.
Everything good? Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Jamie Benson's got the phones covered. There to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer again this morning. Hello, Cyprian. Hello, all. How about it? Yeah, it was up in Balmer Saturday that Martin O'Malley said the magic words.
To you and to all who can hear my voice, I declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States, and I am running for you.
There it is. You got to say those words. You have to make it official.
Now it's official.
I am a candidate for president.
Took us all by surprise. We had no idea he was going to run.
I know. Shocking.
Good for him and all of us who feared that there might be just a boring Democratic primary or the lack of a Democratic primary and no debates and no contests, where we can relax because now we have Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley and Hillary Clinton, and it looks like Link Chafee from Rhode Island.
That's right. And let us not forget about Jim Webb.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
How could you forget?
That's right. How could I forget? Even though his hired campaign staff, the two or three of them, they keep dropping off one by one.
Yeah.
I don't know whether anybody's left.
No.
No, our friend Craig
Crawford is on the
Crawford,
campaign. Yes, indeed.
He's still
there,
left, right.
baby.
And let us not forget Vice President Joe Biden.
That's right.
Yeah, who won't run unless Hillary falters, but he's out there too. Hey, it's going to be a contest. And you know what? I welcome Martin O'Malley. I like him. He's a good guy. I think he was a good governor. He was a good mayor. Here's some questions about his approach to crime in Baltimore, whether that helped or hurt the situation up there. But he's young. He's got some good ideas. Plays a mean guitar.
He's a very good guitar player
in his little Irish rock band, right? So he's got a lot going for him.
I'm interested to see what Martin O'Malley does in this race. I really like Martin O'Malley as a resident of Maryland. I really like.
That's right. I forgot.
I know a lot of people in Maryland have sort of soured on Martin O'Malley, but I think that while he's not perfect, there are a lot of very, very progressive items in his agenda that he did not apologize for, didn't sugarcoat, and he fought tooth and nail for.
And he talks about a new wave of leadership, and I think it's important the Democratic Party think about the new young bench, and not just recycle the old farts.
Yep.
And Martin O'Malley leads that charge.
Certainly.
So good for him. We'll talk to Martin O'Malley a little bit later with Scott Bland from the National Journal. Avery Friedman, CNN's Legal Beagle, will join us to talk about the Denny Hastert situation. We'll talk about that as well. And then reporters in from The Guardian and the Boston Globe and others. We got a full house this morning indeed. And let's get right to, here's the question. What are you going to do now that your phones are free? Free at last from NSA. Let's celebrate. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, we talk a lot about Netflix here on the show, either a new show that they have coming out or whatever deal they have going on. Did you have any idea how big of an impact Netflix has on the internet? Sandvine, a company that looks at streaming traffic, put out some numbers on how many people use Netflix. Netflix now accounts for almost 37% of all internet traffic.
No.
Wow.
37% of all internet traffic comes from people trying to watch things on Netflix. Back in November, it was 35%, so it's growing more and more. They now have 40 million members in the U.S. alone. So,
now, how about the BillPressShow.com?
I'm not sure where we factor in. I'll have to go check the numbers on that.
We're a high competitor, though, I think.
If they're 37%, we've got to be 35%.
Yeah.
So
low 30s or mid 30s.
Wouldn't. we'll have the numbers on
I'm
that
happy
soon.
to be second to Netflix.
There you go. We go to Kazakhstan, where Astana City, the capital of Kazakhstan, which I found out just now, they have a problem with
you could have fooled me.
Yeah, I can tell you anything if you believe it, right?
As long as you said it didn't say it was Dover, because I know Dover is a capital of Delaware.
Well, so they're revitalizing some of the areas in downtown Kazakhstan. They wanted to plant some new greenery, some new plants, some new flowers. So in the median of some of the highways there, they planted some new greenery. Turns out, thousands upon thousands of marijuana plants were planted in the middle of the city. Middle of the highway. The city officials said they have no idea how they got there. They did commission the work to be done, but they don't know how it was actually marijuana plants that were planted there. They haven't ripped them up yet either.
You sure this wasn't Boulder, Colorado?
This wasn't Boulder, Colorado. They said that residents were attracted to the smell because they knew what it smelled like, obviously. And so then they went and saw, it's pot. And the city says they have no idea how it got there.
There's some pretty gardening there, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
I know.
Right.
Let me just say, I'm still not going to Kazakhstan for my summer vacation.
No. Bill, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
To Kim Kardashian and Kanye West. They announced last night they are expecting another child.
Oh, no.
They are expecting another child. That's right. Remember, they have one child, Northwest. His name is the child. So they have another child coming. Of course, Twitter jumped on. Everyone knows that the new baby is going to be Southwest or Southeast or whatever, complete opposite. But yes, congratulations to the happy couple. They're Going to have a new baby here soon.
Poor kid. Some people should not be allowed to have children.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They should be on the list. All right. There we go. Yes, indeed. It was an unusual day. Indeed, in the United States Senate yesterday, and it was a huge defeat, ended up being a huge, embarrassing defeat for Mitch McConnell. For that reason alone, we should be happy. But the end of the end of the game was that the NSA's, the Patriot Act, the provision of the Patriot Act that allows NSA to capture every phone call you make and I make is gone. It is temporarily shut down. NSA is out of business. If that's not a reason to celebrate, I don't know what is. And our question is, I'll tell you how it all happened, but first get on the phone. Tell us, how are you going to take advantage of this new freedom? You can make a call knowing that nobody is listening in. They won't know who you called, how long you talked, when you placed a phone call, or where you placed it from, or whom you called. Nothing. They can't track it anymore.
It expired a couple of hours ago. I've already made several illegal wire transfers this morning. I figure, I'm celebrating my new freedoms.
So how are you going to celebrate your new freedoms? Tell us, 866-55-PRESS. Nobody's going to be listening to that call either. No, we're not.
If you want to call in and talk smack about the NSA,
this is the time, man. Feel free, right? No more fear of that, who might be listening in on your phone call, 866-55-PRESS. Or, maybe on a more serious note, do you feel less safe today, right now, because the NSA is not able to listen to your phone call? 866-55-PRESS. So, we know what happened. The House, remember, passed this bill overwhelmingly, bipartisan vote, saying that NSA could still collect all the information, but the phone companies would hold on to it, not NSA. That's sort of this middle of the road. Mitch McConnell didn't want that. He wanted NSA's program to continue full bore. So did President Obama, by the way, in the beginning, but he settled for the compromise and said he would support the House compromise, the so-called USA Freedom Act. So McConnell called the senators back because it expired last night at midnight. McConnell called the senators back at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. And first of all, could he get the votes to keep NSA in business and keep it going without any restrictions at all? No way, no how. He couldn't even get enough Republican votes for that. So then he came back and he says, okay, let's back up just a little bit. The president, before they came in on Friday, he told reporters in the Oval Office again, drop in the old fear attack again, that, boy, if we don't extend this, there could be a terrorist attack Monday morning.
Heaven forbid, we've got a problem where we could have prevented a terrorist attack or apprehended someone who was engaged in dangerous activity, but we didn't do so simply because of inaction in the Senate.
And John Brennan, the head of the CIA, made the same point yesterday in the talk shows, which I think was really reckless and irresponsible to warn about another 9/11 could happen today if we let the Patriot Act expire last night. No. Remember, if they have any suspicion that somebody's really involved in terrorism, they can go to the existing law. They can go to the FISA court and get permission to tap that guy's phone and follow that person all the way through. And also remember that in all the years since 9/11, they've been tracking every single phone call. They have not discovered one single case of suspected terrorism or prevented one single terrorist attack from all those gazillions of your phone calls and mine that they have been recording or monitoring or keeping the information on. So anyhow, Mitch McConnell says, well, okay, if I can't keep NSA going, here's what we'll do. Let's just keep it going. Let's just extend it for a couple of weeks.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of a bill, which is at the desk, to extend the expiring provisions related to lone wolf and roving wiretaps for 2 weeks.
But Rand Paul stood in the way, and he said, no, 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 I will not allow this program to go forward. Only one senator, Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky.
Let us be clear. We are here tonight because the president continues to conduct an illegal program.
And Rand Paul says, okay, well, let me hold that for just a second. And so the Senate did not extend the Patriot Act. It did expire last night. And then the Senate voted to go with the House plan, this in-between plan of, again, they'll continue to collect the data, but the phone companies will hold it, not the NSA, which I still think is a bogus approach. It's better than the old plan, but it still means that all of our data will be collected. But again, not even that is happening now. Right now, there is no collection of all this data, and it won't be until they pass this bill, which Rand Paul admitted last night may be before the end of the week.
The Patriot Act will expire tonight. It will only be temporary. They will ultimately get their way. But I think the majority of the American people actually do believe the government's gone too far.
Yep, I think he's right on that point. So the question is, now we got this little holiday from NSA spying. It may be over today. It may be over Tuesday, Wednesday, may last a week or 2 weeks. How are you going to celebrate no NSA spying? You know, one way you ought to celebrate is bring Edward Snowden back from Russia.
For starters.
For starters, yeah. Yeah. And salute him as a whistleblower that he is. It is Freedom from NSA Day here on the Bill Press Show, 866-55-PRESS. How are you going to celebrate? Let's find out.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together.
What you gonna do when the temperature's so? Love our children too.
But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other,
Love our children too.
helping each other out,
Then I sat at the
living
banker's
together.
desk. I gotta get something
Living
off my
together.
chest. I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour. Yes, this is the same Mitch McConnell who said, you put us in charge and you put me in charge, and man, we are going to show you how we get things done. We're going to work like clockwork here in the United States Senate. Didn't quite work out that way. The thing I like best about the fact that the Patriot Act was allowed to expire is the Patriot Act was allowed to expire because it should have never been voted for in the first place. And again, only Russ Feingold had the guts to vote against it. So it's gone. It'll be back in a couple of days in some fashion. That's the thing I like best about it is that we do have this little period in between of phone freedom. The thing I like almost as much is that this is a big, huge defeat for Mitch McConnell, who is an incompetent leader and should never be the Republican, any leader of any party in the United States Senate.
We're on Twitter, Bill, at BP Show, at BP
Yes.
Show. A lot of people jumping on to just remind us that we're not quite as free as we might think that we are. Michael Latham weighs in, says all data by phone and internet providers is still kept. Today and yesterday, the NSA can still ask for it. So the phone companies are still keeping
under
all
the
of
new
this,
plan. But
all
right
of this
now, they're not.
information.
Yeah, but that's important. Right now, they are not collecting the data. There's no bulk collection going on right now. When this new bill passes the Senate, the phone companies will collect it and hold it.
And Jessica says, the NSA can't keep my selfies to anyone anymore. Maybe it's time for me to take some naked pictures. Yes.
Oh, Jessica.
I said it. Okay, Jessica.
There you go.
Have fun over there.
Helen, up in Ithaca, New York. Hey, Helen, what do you think?
Good morning. I think we all deserve tax rebates or at least credits or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we've been paying these people to spy on us against our will, without our knowledge, and now they're twiddling their thumbs. These nosy nerds are doing nothing. So,
Yeah.
we should all get some money back.
That's a very good question. What are all these spies doing now since they can't tap our phones, right? Let's get our money back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country. with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great, big, progressive family. But like all families, you know, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. You know, we all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Again, I think we got into it a little bit on Thursday, but I was telling you that I find myself agreeing with Rand Paul on more and more issues. Well, this is one place, I think, where Rand Paul... Think about the pressure that he got from his fellow Republicans to just roll over and let this thing happen, right? Everybody else just wanted to act yesterday. Everybody else wanted to say, we got to do something. We can't let the Patriot Act expire. And Rand Paul says, oh, yes, we can. We never should have passed it in the first place. A federal court has ruled that it is illegal to do what the NSA is doing. And so we should just not fool around with finding out how we can fudge it to keep it going and think that it's not going to be as bad as it was. We ought to just end it, kill it, and let the NSA use what they always used to do to follow those suspected of terrorism and leave the rest of us alone. So, again, I think we all should salute Rand Paul for the courage that he showed yesterday. Want to touch on a very sad note, and that is the passing Saturday of 46-year-old Beau Biden, the oldest son of Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden. You know, coming from Delaware, I got to know Beau Biden a little bit. I wouldn't say really, really close, but we saw each other several times. A wonderful guy. Everybody in Delaware loved him. He was so much like his dad, Attorney General of Delaware for 2 terms, and then it was just assumed, taken for granted, Beau Biden was going to be the next governor of Delaware. And then he was diagnosed with brain cancer, underwent chemo and radiation surgery. They thought they had it licked, and then just a few months ago it recurred. He went into Walter Reed Hospital, and that's where he passed away Saturday. Just a great, horrible, horrible tragedy for the entire nation, and certainly for the Biden family, which has known its share of tragedies. We all saw, the nation, I guess, discovered Beau Biden for the first time back in 2008 at the Democratic Convention in Denver. We were there, Peter, when he's the one who introduced his dad, candidate for vice president.
Good evening. I'm Beau Biden, and Joe Biden is my dad.
He really looked like his dad too, as a young man. And when now our vice president took the stage, he talked, and he said this again yesterday. He talked about success in the eyes of what his father used to tell him.
Father knows he's a success when he turns and looks at his son or daughter and know that they turned out better than he did. I'm a success. I'm a hell of a success. Bowie, I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, so he knew the success when he sees how well Beau Biden has done. Beau Biden, when he was elected Attorney General, he had been, I think, a member of the reserve or whatever, but he went off on active duty to Iraq, served in Iraq, and I believe won the Bronze Star in Iraq, and then came back and was reelected as Attorney General. So he served his country, served his state in many ways. Wonderful, wonderful guy. So he was always he was always very good to me. Every time I was at some gathering where he was, he came over. We laughed about and joked about my little hometown of Delaware City, Delaware. Always loved the work I was doing and talked about that, and was always there in support of his dad. And as I said, the Biden family, remember when Joe Biden was first elected to the United States Senate, he'd been elected before he was sworn in. A horrible automobile crash in Delaware took the life of his wife and his little daughter. 2 sons survived, and Joe said at the time, young Joe, he was not even, it was just like 30 years old, I think, just old enough.
Yeah.
to serve in the Senate. I don't think he was old enough when he was elected, but he was old enough by the time he would have been sworn in to serve in the Senate. But he said, Delaware can always get another. He was going to quit. Delaware can always get another senator, but these two kids can't get another father. And I came down to Washington, and whoever was the Senate leader at the time, I forget his name, talked Joe into serving the Senate. Here's what you can do. You can go home every night. And he did. His entire Senate career went home every night to Wilmington, Delaware.
On Amtrak.
So it could put those kids to bed,
Yeah.
be there when they get up in the morning, get them off to school, and then come back down and serve in the Senate. That kind of devotion. And Joe often talked to the vice president, often talked about that. Back in 2012, he was speaking to a group of people who had suffered tragedies in their own families, and he said, "Take it from me, there will come a time when you'll remember those people you lost, and it'll bring a smile to your face rather than a tear." Here's Joe Biden saying it better than I could.
There will come a day, I promise you, and you parents as well, when the thought of your son or daughter or your husband or wife brings a smile to your lips before it brings a tear to your eye. It will happen.
Yesterday, the president and the first lady left the White House and went up to the vice president's home at the Naval Observatory to visit with the Biden family. And earlier in the day, the president put out a statement on the passing of Beau Biden, which I want to read to you. And I want to do it because, part of the White House press corps, I get this stuff all the time. It's routine. Somebody, B.B. King dies or somebody else dies, and they put out a little statement from the president. And they're always nice, but they're kind of pro forma.
Yeah.
This one isn't. This one really, really struck me. So the statement by the president on the passing of Beau Biden. Michelle and I are grieving tonight. Beau Biden, this was put out Saturday evening. Beau Biden was a friend of ours, his beloved family. Hallie, Natalie, and Hunter are friends of ours, and Joe and Jill Biden are as good as friends get. Beau took after Joe. He studied the law like his dad, even choosing the same law school. He chased a life of public service like his dad, serving in Iraq and as Delaware's Attorney General. Like his dad, Beau was a good, big-hearted, devoutly Catholic, and deeply faithful man who made a difference in the lives of all he touched, and he lives on in their hearts. But for all that Beau Biden achieved in his life, nothing made him prouder, nothing made him happier, nothing claimed a fuller focus of his love and devotion than his family, just like his dad. The Bidens have more family than they know. In the Delaware they love, in the Senate Joe reveres, across this country that he has served for more than 40 years, and they have a family right here in the White House where hundreds of hearts ache tonight. For Hallie, Natalie, and Hunter, for Joe and Jill, for Beau's brother Hunter, his sister Ashley, and for the entire Biden clan. Beautiful statement there, very heartfelt on the part of the president to the Biden family on the loss of Beau Biden, a loss that all of us Americans just feel this morning. Great guy, and at 46. Could have been easily the next governor of Delaware, and I could just see the next senator from Delaware, and then after that, who knows? He was right on that track.
Somebody pointed out sort of the strength of a guy like Joe Biden, who has seen such horrible tragedy in their life. Like, my greatest fear in life is having to bury one of my children, and Joe Biden's had to do it twice.
Yeah.
And you look at how Biden carries himself, and you just have to admit that Biden's got something figured out that the rest of us don't.
Plus, remember, he had an aneurysm in his brain.
Yeah.
And, we almost lost him.
Yeah.
So, he's been through the personal tragedy, and just unbelievable. Beau Biden, yes, a great man, died much, much, much too soon. We'll be right back. Scott Bland joins us next from the National Journal, editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline. Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, "Not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution." For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you. Democratic primary getting a little more crowded, as we mentioned, on Saturday up in Baltimore. Former governor, former mayor of Baltimore, Martin O'Malley. He's been at it for a few months now, traveling around the country, saying he might run. Saturday he made it official, and he talked, like most candidates do, about restoring the American dream.
I want to talk with you today about the American dream, about the American dream we share. Its powerful history, its current condition, and its urgent need of rebuilding.
Yes, and talking about that America needs a new wave of leadership, sort of an indirect slap maybe at Hillary Clinton. Joining us to tell us whether we think he's got a chance or not, Scott Bland is editor-in-chief of the National Journal Hotline. Hello, Scott. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Martin O'Malley, should we take him seriously at all?
Well, that was actually almost the exact title of a National Journal magazine cover story in 2013.
Oh, really? Oh.
And
way back then?
Way back then. And it was a nice picture of him playing the guitar. The answer is, like many things at this point, is it's really too early to tell. The early signs aren't all that great. He's registering very, very low in the polls. I think Bloomberg has a new poll out this morning in Iowa that shows him at 2 or 3%. Facebook has been doing something interesting when the presidential candidates launch their campaigns. They've been tracking the number of people talking about the candidate launches on Facebook, and the number of interactions they're generating. And Martin O'Malley's campaign launch in the 24 hours surrounding it generated about 120,000 interactions on Facebook, according to data the company released, which is less than any candidate launch except George Pataki's so far.
Oh, yeah. Wow. How did Bernie Sanders do, by the way?
Bernie Sanders did, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but he did around 500,000, which was, or 500,000 people, and then he was kind of in there with a lot of the Republican candidates who have, and he has a very, very involved and energetic online following, which I think we saw in the fundraising numbers he posted after doing that announcement.
And so we've seen from the response of our listeners and viewers as well, huge response to Bernie's announcement, right? So O'Malley's, it's a big hill to climb for him, is what you're saying, huh?
Yes, and I think you can actually see that a little bit in the way that he has talked about Hillary Clinton so far. When he has certainly criticized her, but he's done it very, very obliquely so far, often without mentioning her name, often without kind of specifically hinting that he's talking about anyone in particular. And it's because no one really knows who he is at this point. He doesn't want the first impression of him to be negative.
Does he have the resources to make a serious run?
Certainly not yet. We'll have to see what happens. Certainly there hasn't been any outpouring of suggestion that there are going to be,
I'm talking about obviously big money, some major donor, some Foster Freeze or or Sheldon Adelson or something.
Well, so the thing about something like that is it only takes one, right?
That's right.
At least from the super PAC, and so we'll have to wait and see on that. In terms of his candidate fundraising, there's certainly been no indication that that's going to be, going gangbusters, at least from the start. And a lot of it's interesting. A lot of people, and we've seen this on the Republican side too, kind of look back and say, oh well, Obama was an underdog in 2007, and who could have seen what happened? Barack Obama raised $100 million in 2007. Hillary Clinton raised more, but Barack Obama raised $100 million in 2007, and any of the underdogs this year are going to be hard pressed to match that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, speaking of, I don't know, not non-serious candidates, it seems to me, we have yet another Republican announcing today, Lindsey Graham. I mean, really? Well, I guess George Pataki still would be at the bottom of the totem pole, but talk about a big hill to climb for Lindsey Graham. No?
Yes, absolutely, definitely a big hill to climb. I mean, the thing, he only won 54 or 56% of the Republican primary for Senate in his home state of South Carolina in 2014. He's going to be up against a slightly better roster of candidates this time, I think. And the thing is, though, he does, he has a super PAC out there backing him. Republican donors love him, and especially a lot of them love what he has to say about Rand Paul, which could be very interesting to watch. And he'll certainly play a role. I don't think anyone thinks that role ends with him winning the nomination. But the state he comes from and the particular place in the Republican national security conversation he occupies could make this interesting.
I just don't see it. When he started, Peter and I were talking earlier this morning. When he started talking about it and moving around, and I just thought, that I didn't think he would actually take the step of becoming a candidate. That he would just he just was enjoying the talk, but here he is. So, and I've lost track. How many have announced so far? Are we up to double digits yet? I don't know.
Total, I think we're up to double digits. I don't know if the Republican side has gotten that high yet. I think we're still waiting for a few more to get there.
All right. Well, I'm waiting for Donald Trump, personally. I think that's right. All right. We got to run.
You won't have to wait long.
Yeah, I know. That's right. All right, Scott. Always good to have you with us. Thanks so much. All right. Talk to you again soon. Scott Plant, It's the National Journal, nationaljournal.com. Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians, amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America, by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you. For CNN and the Bill Press Show will join us to talk about the Denny Hastert indictment. Peter?
Who's in, who's out? We were just talking about that with Scott Blade. I have a definitive answer about the number of candidates.
Okay. I lose
on
track.
The Republican Party. Everybody loses track. There's so many names. So here's who has officially announced. Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, Mike Huckabee, George Pataki, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, and Rick Santorum.
Among Republicans.
Republicans.
That's
so that's eight. Lindsey Graham will be 9. Rick Perry, who's announcing on June 4th, will be 10.
He's up this week, then.
He's up this week.
Will be 10, okay.
We've got 2 more coming.
And then
Donald Trump on June 16th. Get ready.
I hope so.
Get ready.
And Jeff hasn't announced it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers Free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America, by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment and the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Make all the phone calls you want today. The phone calls you didn't dare make before. It is Phone Freedom Day. The NSA is not listening in. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Man, I've been up all night just calling, making all those calls I put off. Didn't dare do before. It's Monday, June 1st. Good to see you today. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Good to have you on board. Hope you had a great weekend, and we're diving into the big news of the day. Yep, the biggest of which is the Senate failed last night to extend the Patriot Act, thanks to one man who stood in the way, Rand Paul, and they may extend the program in some form or fashion later in the week. But for now, NSA's illegal, remember, a federal court found it illegal spying program is over. And again, thanks to Senator Rand Paul. Good to see you today. And we look forward to hearing from you. Whether you're listening on your local progressive talk radio station or watching on Free Speech TV or watching around the world on our video stream, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Team Press in place this first day of June. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Yep. Your phones have been busy this morning?
Oh, absolutely. I've been taking...
texting. You can do everything right now. Nobody's watching.
I've been taking
listening.
nude selfies and sending them to everyone in my address book all morning long because nobody's watching.
Can you imagine what Edward Snowden is doing today?
I hope he's
Probably
got
backflips.
Got a big smile on his face.
Without covering his face, he's writing an email.
Yeah. That's right. I told you so. Jamie Benson's here as well to take your phone calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Avery Friedman standing by. Not standing by. No, he's on the job.
Oh, man.
As our videographer, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV.
Cyprian Bolding.
What did I say?
You said Avery Friedman.
Oh, Avery.
Avery Friedman's coming up.
He's a man of many talents.
Avery does a lot.
He's had another job, but he is not our videographer, though.
Cyprian. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, Cyprian. You know, we know who he is, right? Yeah. By the way, just an update. You know, last week I told you all about the big trip to Cuba. Very, very much in the news because on Friday, while I was gone, the president did announce, as planned, that he has taken Cuba off the list of state-sponsored countries that sponsor terrorism. And that raises a question about how soon, then, are we going to have the U.S. Embassy open in Havana? Josh Earnest talked about that on Friday at the briefing.
As of right now, there are additional issues that our diplomats are working through before we
can reach an agreement about that would yield the opening of embassies.
Yeah. Still a couple little details there to work out before the Cuban embassy opens there and the American embassy opens here, and the American embassy opens in Havana. But I did talk to one of John Kerry's top aides yesterday, who said the Secretary of State is planning to go to Havana when they open the American embassy down there. So we'll see that. Yes, indeed. Avery Friedman, not our videographer, but CNN and the Bill Press Show's Legal Beagle will be joining us here to talk about the Denny Hastert indictment yesterday, and we'll have reporters later from the Boston Globe and from the National Journal and from other publications. But first, our full court brought to you today by Health Mart Pharmacies. Visit healthmart.com for the locally owned pharmacy near you.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Here's a legal issue, Bill. We go to France for this one, where a bartender was charged with manslaughter after he served a 56-year-old man 56 shots of alcohol.
Oh.
He was celebrating his birthday, and he saw at this bar that they had a record behind the bar, that the most shots that anybody has taken in any one sitting was 55, and because the man was celebrating his birthday, he wanted to try and beat that, so he did. He drank 56 shots of liquor. He then went home, went into cardiac arrest, and died the next day. This bartender was charged with manslaughter, and over at the end of last week, he was found guilty. He was found guilty of manslaughter by feeding this man too much alcohol. The court said, among other things, the fact that the bartender had a list behind the bar of how many, or what the record was of the most number of shots taken. It was an invitation for people to try and beat that record. So they're cracking down on binge drinking, Bill.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that's not good. Quote, "One thing I will never forget is the trust you placed in me and how nice you were to have me as a guest in your home over so many years. That meant the world to me, and it always will. Thank you." End quote. That is the final sign-off from Bob Schieffer, who said farewell yesterday. He signed off CBS's Face.
What a great guy. What a class act.
My favorite journalist of all time. I am such a big fan of Bob Schieffer. 58 years serving in journalism, and he celebrated yesterday. Jeb Bush was his big guest yesterday on Face the Nation, and they had a little party afterwards. I will very much miss Bob Schieffer.
Absolutely, and I'm so proud that we have had him as a guest on our show several times. He's great man.
He can go and
real
focus.
Role model for all of us.
He can now go focus on his honky tonk band.
Yeah, right. He's got a great honky tonk band.
That's right, Honky Tonk Confidential. And if your kid likes spicy foods, they might be in trouble. That is the story, according to one doctor who says that he's seen a few cases of kids having problems with digesting spicier foods. They point directly to Cheetos, the Flamin' Hot Cheetos, which I love, but they're fairly spicy. And so these kids are eating these spicy junk foods at younger and younger ages, and that's having a real problem on their digestion. So doctors are saying, keep the kids away from these spicier foods until they get a little bit older and their digestive system matures enough to be able to handle it.
I'd say stay away from them forever. I hate spicy foods. All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. And at this hour, we are proud to introduce our videographer, Avery Friedman here. Joining
Move
us
a little bit to the left, please.
Yeah, right. Joining us on our news line this morning. Hello, Avery. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great, Bill. It's great to be with you and the guys. But this story we're talking about today is red hot, isn't it?
It is. And I have to tell you, I know as a Democrat, as a liberal, I'm supposed to have a big smile on my face and feel very, very happy that Dennis Hastert has been found charged with a federal crime. But, Avery, I wanted to talk to you about it this morning because I feel a little troubled by this indictment. Should I?
You know, the real irony of this is that the one of the two laws that he was charged under, Denny Hastert was charged under, was bank evading. And that was part of the Patriot Act.
Oh,
the idea was that if you're taking $10,000 out of a bank, banks are inclined to to keep a track on that and keep a record of that. Well, everybody sort of knows that, but what most people don't know is that if you try to evade that $10,000 rule by taking out, like 9,200 or something like that, that's in the law. That's in the law that, among others, Denny Hastert wrote.
Right. Yeah, right.
And here we are involved in a situation where, at least according to the United States Attorney in Chicago, that over $1.7 million was taken out that way. First, actually, the claim is that Denny Hastert was taking out $50,000 a pop.
Yeah.
And then he realized, wow, we got this evading law, so I'm going to take out like 92 or 91 or 89. Well, you can't do that either.
It's called, is the word structuring, is that what they call it?
It's structuring, but it's essentially bank evasion, and it's part of the Patriot Act, and so that was the first charge. The second charge, and there's an enormous amount of confusion on that, because a lot of people, for example, think, Bill, that Martha Stewart went to jail because of inside trading. She went to jail because she lied to the FBI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing, as a citizen of the United States, nothing that compels you, if a special agent comes up, wants to talk to you, you're not talking to him. But Denny did. And so, wham, he's got the bank evading federal statute, and he's got lying to the FBI.
All right, so I want to make one thing clear. I mean, that it did evolve, and the FBI anonymously said yesterday what the root of the thing is personal misconduct, right? Which appears to be
conduct,
sexual abuse, perhaps against one of his former students. We don't know.
Well, they're not saying that. If you read,
right? Yeah.
So I mean that's the implication, and there are a lot of anonymous witnesses coming forward saying it was about sex. That's not in the indictment.
Not exactly. That's the point I wanted to make, and that people don't understand. It's not in the indictment, and in questioning whether or not he should have been charged, we're not condoning that activity if it ever happened.
Well, that's right. But you know what's interesting? This was a congressman that when he went to Congress, his worth was about $270,000.
Yeah.
When he left Congress, it was between 11 and 17 million, give or take. And so the thought was, well, maybe there was an investigation of public corruption.
Right.
Get it?
Yes.
And then, there's nothing there. I mean, what he did appears to be perfectly fine. And then this thing surfaces purportedly about what went on back in the 60s or 70s.
Right. So, Mike, I guess my one question is several questions, but let's start with, if his name were Dennis Harris instead of Dennis Hastert, would he ever been charged?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
think
either.
This is a guess. I think they were looking for public corruption. They couldn't find it. They find out about the bank evading, the structuring.
Yep.
He goes in. And you know what the explanation was? He said this to the Bureau. They said, well, what are you taking all this money out? And he said, well, I just don't trust American banks.
Yeah.
Really? So, I mean, and it's serious.
So my second question is, all right, now I get this. I get the structuring. But he was taking his own money out of the bank.
Right.
That's a federal crime?
Well, the question was he? I mean, you can take money out of the bank, but you can't do it for the purpose of evading the banking provisions of the Patriot Act. That's the whole weird thing about this.
And they were designed in the Patriot Act, right, to catch terrorists. If they couldn't catch them committing a terrorist act, they could catch them with the funny money, right?
That's what this is.
Or drug dealers, right? They can't catch them, so they catch them on the funny money. Yeah, but it wasn't designed for a guy who's taking his own money out of the bank for whatever reason.
You think about it, no one is really talking about the subject, the recipient of what has been up to about $1.7 million.
I was getting to that. I mean, that's extortion, right?
Looks like it to me.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing.
So why isn't he
that's
charged? Exactly. That's a crime. Why isn't he charged?
Well,
I mean, it just seems to me that the FBI is out of control on this. I have to tell you this. I'm going to be careful. But I got a call over the weekend. I was able to talk over the weekend to a former assistant U.S. attorney from Chicago, who said his question to me was, where's the federal crime? He thinks this was just total overzealous U.S. attorney.
Well, Well, it could be, but remember, the second crime seems to me to be a lot easier to establish than the first crime. I mean,
lying?
Denny wasn't taking it out because he didn't trust the banking system in America. He was taking it out to obviously pay somebody.
If is any, let's say it's a divorce case or something. I mean, any lie you tell to the FBI is a federal crime?
Theoretically, but the discretion rests with the U.S. Attorney to decide what to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, for all we know, he could have been buying those flaming hot Cheetos that Peter liked. You don't know what he was doing with the money.
Right. Yeah.
But it was pretty clear. In fact, Denny appeared on C-SPAN. This is a weird story, and every call that's made gets in.
Yeah.
And somebody calls in, and
hey, hold it right there, because we've got that call. We'll play it, okay?
Oh, all right. Well, that tells you a lot.
Yeah. No, this is back in November 2014. Hastert is on C-SPAN. He gets a call from Bruce in Yorkville, which is the hometown, right, where this guy lived.
Yep.
We know. Here's how that came across.
Illinois is our next call. Here's Bruce, Independent Line. Hi.
Hello, Denny.
Hey, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Remember me from Yorkville?
Bruce, you're on. Go ahead with your question comment.
Yo.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah.
that's ugly.
That's creepy.
That's ugly.
Yeah.
And you know
really
what?
creepy.
Again, let's make sure we have some context. He has been charged with 2 crimes. He is presumed to be innocent. Burden still rests on the prosecutor to prove these charges beyond a reasonable doubt. And there'll be arraignment coming up, I bet you, this week in federal district court in Chicago. So, there's a long way to go on
Could
this.
you defend him? If you were an attorney, you were asked, do you think he's got a good defense case? That's what my question is.
That's a very tough question. I actually, if I'm prosecuting it, I like charge number 2 better than charge number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Charge number 1 is just filthy because he's being extorted. Well, actually, you don't. Is this a voluntary effort to say to someone that he did something wrong to purportedly, look, I'm going to try to make up for what I did wrong, and I'm going to try to compensate you for that.
Yeah.
But then the whole thing went way out of control.
No, Denny may be a decent guy, but he didn't volunteer to pay $3.5 million to anybody. No, I can tell you that. All right, Avery. Well, I'm really glad we had a chance to talk about this
is
morning.
something, and it's going to be ongoing, Bill.
You bet.
We'll have a lot to talk about with Denny. Just Denny alone.
You got it. All right.
Sure.
Hey, thanks so much, Avery. Always good to talk to you. Thanks. AveryFriedman.com is where you follow Avery Friedman, not just on the Bill Press Show or CNN, but at AveryFriedman.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers Free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. we all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Dustin Volz from the National Journal joins us at the half hour. Talk more about NSA. We'll have more of a chance to talk about what we were just discussing with Avery Friedman on the Denny Hastert indictment. But again, this conversation I had with a former assistant U.S. attorney from Chicago, and that's where he was charged, it laid it out for me, I thought, over the weekend, which I really found troubling, is that the way this worked is the banks tipped off somebody at the FBI, something may be going on. So the FBI thinks, here's a former speaker and a lobbyist. There's some public corruption, some bribery or something going on here about Washington, D.C. So they started looking into it. And they talked to Denny about it. And they realized this has nothing to do with his public life, nothing to do with Washington, nothing to do with the House or the lobbying or the Senate, nothing to do with that. It's a personal matter. At which time he says what they should have done is then, okay, turn it over to civil authorities and let them decide what they're going to do. Yep. Instead, the FBI goes on the structuring thing, which was not designed for people taking their own money out of the bank. It was designed, again, for a way of getting drug dealers or terrorists for the money laundering that they're doing. And as to the perhaps alleged sexual abuse that took place back when he was a teacher and a wrestling coach in the high school, I got to say, if that guy really felt that he was a victim, still felt that way so many years later, the thing to do is you go to the police. You don't extort money out of somebody else. That is a federal crime for which he is not charged.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works? Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour here, Monday, June 1, The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, where we are brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers Unions. They've all united. Put them together, sheet, metal, air, rail, and transportation. You get the SMART union, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Under President Joseph Sellers, their new president, You can find out more information about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. Yes, indeed, as we said at the top of the show, get busy, make all the phone calls you want today, all the phone calls that you didn't dare make for the last 11 or more years, because the NSA is no longer spying on your phones. That provision of the Patriot Act expired last night. Dustin Volz is here. He's a tech policy writer for the National Journal, and he was on the scene last night in the United States Senate until midnight or so. Hello, Dustin. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
So when the Patriot Act expired, did Rand Paul pop the champagne corks? Or?
Well, he drove away a couple hours before with his friends, Representative Justin Amash and Thomas Massey. So he wasn't there right at midnight to celebrate, but I'm sure he was celebrating somewhere else.
So he did have a couple of friends with him, because he didn't have many friends among his fellow Republican senators.
Right. I think last night really kind of removed any doubt that Senator Paul's really kind of burned some bridges among the Republican caucus in the Senate. I think there was some people thinking that he was still maybe working with Majority Leader McConnell behind the scenes on some sort of deal, but last night kind of really made it clear that he's at odds with a lot of the members, including McConnell, on this issue, and really his closest friends, it seems, are two very libertarian-leaning representatives in the House.
And it is interesting that Mitch McConnell is the only one member of the Senate who has actually endorsed Rand Paul for president.
Right. It does certainly put him in a very awkward position. When he talked about this on a Sunday morning news show a couple weeks ago, he said, I love Rand Paul. He'll expand the base for us. I think he's the right guy to go. I just very strongly disagree with him on this issue. And it's interesting because McConnell normally doesn't speak out so loudly on a lot of his issues. He kind of lets his caucus sort of settle and see where they sit, and then work to bring them together. But this one, he kind of came out front. He's a big believer in the NSA surveillance and the Patriot Act, and so it was interesting to see this debate going.
All right. So what McConnell wanted was to keep the Patriot Act going without any amendments at all. Just continue the program, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have many votes for that.
He didn't. Yeah. It's ancient history, it seems. But about 2 months ago, he introduced a bill that would have extended it 5.5 years. These surveillance provisions unchanged, and then he eventually sort of relented to just a 2-month extension, which he said was to buy more time for negotiation. But a lot of people saw that as just attempts to weaken reform efforts, and basically that didn't have enough support either. And this USA Freedom Act, this reform bill, is likely now going to get a vote probably on Tuesday of this week. So the Patriot Act's did for now, but these sections are. But the Freedom Act is going to sort of bring them back with a lot of reforms enhanced.
And you say that passed the House, right?
It did overwhelmingly. Yeah, it had 338 votes in the House, and it advanced last night with 77 votes in the Senate. So now there's going to be a few amendments debated. McConnell and Senate Intelligence Chairman Richard Burr still want to sort of take their stab at weakening it a little bit. Some of these amendments might be to save face. Some of them are a little more substantial, like increasing the length of time when you transition from the NSA bulk spying program to a new regime where the phone records keep the records, phone companies keep the records. Yeah. But it looks like that's going to pass probably pretty easily on Tuesday.
All right. Yeah. So let's slow down and go back a little bit. So this USA Freedom Act, so the vote in the Senate, 77-17. Was to open debate. In other words, that was the cloture vote, right? Okay, so they will debate this USA Freedom Act now, which, again, McConnell didn't want, but I guess now he does support. The president supports it.
Right.
But they want to amend it, which means it has to go back. We'll have to go back to conference, of course, or go to conference, right?
Right.
And so if that passes, will NSA still be listening or monitoring all of our phone calls? Still doing bulk collection? What change will it make?
It's interesting. Some privacy folks I talk to say this is a great bill, that this does end bulk collection. Others say it's a distinction without a difference. Basically, the mass collection of millions of records
Which is what Rand Paul says.
Right. Rand Paul doesn't think the bill goes far enough. He doesn't want to pass anything that extends these provisions in any way of the Patriot Act. But really, this bill, what it does is it no longer allows the NSA to grab all the phone records of U.S. call data, this metadata, in bulk every day. And instead, they're going to have targeted searches that they ask the phone companies for on sort of an as-needed basis after they get approval from the FISA court, the surveillance court. So It's a lot less records they're collecting, and it's sort of, as needed. It is certainly reducing the amount of records, but they still have the ability to, if they believe there's reason to be suspicious of someone, to go and gather those records.
Go to the phone companies.
Right, Verizon.
Would they need a FISA?
They would. They need to go to the court, get a secret court order, and
we
say,
think this guy's a bad guy. We want to check his phones.
Right, and one of the big debates is over something called the selection term, which is how broad an ask the government can make for the phone companies. So it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to just one person. It could maybe be an area, area code. It can't be extraordinarily broad. It can't be an entire phone company's records. It can't be the entire country, but there is some leeway for the government to say, we are suspicious of activity going on maybe in this area or connected to these few numbers. We need those records.
And I know this is one of the questions. Do the phone companies have the capacity to store this data and make it available?
They do. And in fact, they already do sort of keep these business records. These are sort of normal business records the phone companies
I thought so.
maintain.
So why is this question that needs 6 months to gear up?
Well, the 6 months is to sort of transition into this new system to make sure all the technology and equipment at the NSA is ready to go and that they understand how the processes work. But Majority Leader McConnell and Intelligence Chairman Richard Burr believe that that's not long enough to get ready for this. So one of the amendments that McConnell's proposed is to lengthen this transition to a year, which is down from the 2 years that Burr originally sought. But I mean, again, the NSA director of National Intelligence has said that this system will work, that they're ready for it, and they can transition to it quickly. So it does seem as though the debate over the extension is, according to some people at least, a bit of a red herring.
All right. So we're sort of in this interregnum right now, right? Where NSA is not collecting it, and the phone companies aren't. And so for these few days, while these amendments are being debated, we're left without this bulk phone collection.
Right.
President Obama, on Friday, reporters in the White House talked about how dangerous this might be.
Heaven forbid, we've got a problem where we could have prevented a terrorist attack or apprehended someone who was engaged in dangerous activity, but we didn't do so simply because of inaction in the Senate.
Isn't that a little overreach, maybe, or overkill? I mean, are we really vulnerable to another 9/11 attack? Just, I understand the scare tactics.
Right. Well, it's interesting. The administration has gone to great lengths over the past couple of weeks to say, it's not just this NSA spying program at stake here. It's broader authorities under Section 215 of the Patriot Act and these two other provisions of the Patriot Act that expired. And that's very true. But a Justice Department Inspector General report released last month basically concluded that Section 215 as a whole hadn't really led the FBI or other intelligence agencies to thwart any terrorist attacks. So there is a lot of pushback that this is sort of the end of the world. I guess the perspective of the national security people is, why take any risk at all with this?
I mean, John Brennan yesterday, head of the CIA, said we could have another 9/11 attack on Monday if we let this expire on Sunday. I mean, people don't believe that. And you went out. The president's own commission.
Yeah.
The commission that the president appointed, led by, I think, Richard Clark, at least he was on it, when they came back and made their recommendations, 46 recommendations on how we ought to go forward, they said that this entire bulk collection program so far had not led to thwarting one single terrorist attack.
Right, and the Privacy Civil Liberties Oversight Board separately also concluded that the program was ineffective. It's interesting, Senator Paul yesterday during his mini speeches on the floor said that he feels as though his enemies almost are hoping that there is some sort of attack so they can blame it on him. I wouldn't go nearly as far as Senator Paul to say that senators really want that to happen, but I mean, there's certainly a lot of concern among the national security professionals, but a lot of pushback on it as well, saying that this is really just overhyping it, and this is part of the post-9/11 mindset that we're still stuck in.
Right. So they didn't want it to happen, but it did. The NSA phone program has expired, at least temporarily. And now's the time. You've got phone freedom. Celebrate it. Make all those phone calls. Make all those texts that you didn't want tracked before. Do it while you can. Dustin Volz is here from National Journal, 866-55-PRESS. Your questions, your comments on Phone Freedom Day. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Sabrina Siddiqui, one of your favorites, will be here as a friend of Bill for the entire next hour from now, The Guardian. The headline in Huffington Post this morning, Dragnet dies. That's how they sum up what happened yesterday in the Senate. Dustin Volz was there, watching it until the bitter end, staff correspondent covering tech issues for National Journal. So, Dustin, what about this ruling by a federal court that the entire program is illegal?
Well, that would presumably be solved with this reform bill, the Freedom Act, because it would no longer be interpreting the word relevant to mean all phone records. This new law would sort of settle that. It was only sort of going to be, I think, a really precarious situation if the Senate actually did decide, if Congress decided to go forward and not change the Patriot Act at all. But because of that
did
ruling,
the court ruling have any impact at all on the Senate's action or on the debate? I mean, was it considered for real or taken seriously?
I think you could make a case that it swung the votes in the House even stronger behind the reform bill, which got 338 votes, and certainly Majority Leader McConnell could not have anticipated that this ruling was going to come down, just a week or two before the Senate was going to debate this. And I think it did convince some of his caucus that we really can't just extend this program without any changes. We have a federal appeals court saying this is illegal. We need to do something.
Let's say a quick hello to John, who's calling from, you got it? Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Hi, John.
Good morning, Bill and guest.
Yes.
And I think, Bill, fellow Californian transplanted Uper.
All right, good for you.
Two things about this program. Number one, as I understand it, it's just a database that's being collected. No one's listening to the calls. It's something that is available to be mined later.
Yeah, right. I think that's right.
And the second thing was with regard to the utility of the program and whether or not it's been useful yet. I was thinking, I've had smoke alarms in my house for 20 years. Never used them, but I keep the batteries going. So should I just disconnect them because they haven't been used yet? No, they have a function. And I think it's weird because, like, I'm a Bernie supporter. I'm totally left, but I just am not concerned about the phone data record collection. I think it actually has some utility. So.
Okay. Now I hear that point, and I've heard that argument before. I just think, personally, I'm sort of with Rand Paul and Bernie on this. I think it's a slippery slope that they have. And let's talk about this, Dustin. Even without this program, the federal government, the CIA or whomever, or the NSA, they are not without the means of tracking people they suspect of being involved in terrorist activities.
Right. They're still able to conduct targeted surveillance. They're still able to, as Rand Paul said, use the Constitution and get warrants even without the Patriot Act. And the argument a lot of privacy advocates...
They go to the FISA court, right?
They go to the FISA court.
Which, by the way, they have never been turned down. It's a rubber stamp.
It's in the 90 percentile. It's high 90s, I believe. So.
Okay. And they say, look, we think this gang of people or this person or whatever, as you say, this neighborhood, right? This little nest of terrorism.
Right.
And we want to, in fact, listen in on their calls, right? And the FISA court says, boom, you got it, and they go.
Right. And I think the argument that a lot of privacy advocates make about sort of this program in particular, this NSA program, is that one, the utility of it has been refuted by two independent government agencies, the Presidential Review Board.
And it's been going on for a long time.
It's been going on in secret, and that also it might distract these intelligence agencies from doing sort of that more traditional surveillance that you mentioned. That by collecting everything, by having such a large haystack, it's really hard to find the needles of terrorism or the suspects. And also, I think this debate in Congress is important to remember because there are more debates coming on surveillance in 2 years. Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act is going to expire. That deals with the NSA's handling of digital communications, online, internet, email, foreign, and in some cases domestic. And this is sort of kind of drawing a line in the sand to see whether or not Congress wants to do anything at all going forward, and it appears that they do actually want to start reforming some of these programs.
Okay, now we would not be having this conversation. We wouldn't even know about this program at all if it weren't for Mr. Edward Snowden.
I think that's a fair case to be made, yes. But I think a lot of senators would still sort of disagree that his actions were warranted or justified.
So he is still being treated as a criminal on the loose, right, in Russia, and not as the whistleblower.
It was interesting yesterday in the Senate. A lot of Republicans, these defense hawks who are a little more supportive of the NSA spying programs, they kind of admitted that this is, in their opinion, Snowden's fault, that he deserves the blame for this debate, and they're kind of begrudgingly going along with these reforms. Now, Democrats, on the other hand, a lot of them championing these reforms for a long time, including Senator Wyden and Senator Heinrich, have basically said, well, Snowden still wasn't necessary. What he did was illegal and wrong, and we've been fighting for years, to change these programs, which is true. Certainly, Senator Wyden, being a member of the Intelligence Committee, for years warned against these programs.
Right. But so did Senator Barack Obama. When he was senator.
Certainly, Senator Obama had some different views when he was not president. But the fact remains that this debate would not be unfolding the way it is, and likely the reforms taking place would not be going forward the way they are without the Snowden revelations. Again, it's your opinion whether that's good or bad.
Our listeners and our viewers know my opinion.
Yeah. I know your opinion, too.
He's a whistleblower. I think he ought to be celebrated as a whistleblower that he is, and the federal government ought to stop treating him like Chelsea Manning. That's what they want. They want to bring him back, and 35 years for him, No. Hey, Dustin, I don't want to get you involved in that. That's my opinion, not yours necessarily.
Yours, yes. All right. No comment.
Smart man.
Good job. Particularly appreciate your coming in, being up so late last night and covering this. So.
Anytime for you, Bob.
Remember that, Peter.
Yes, exactly.
All right. We'll be right back and tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 3 minutes now before the top of the hour. It's hard to get through the entire show without friends, and we got a good friend coming up for the next hour. Friend here is a friend of Bill, Sabrina Siddiqui, one of your favorites. President Obama today, big day at the White House. He gets a daily briefing at 10 o'clock this morning, and then he will be welcoming the King and Queen of the Netherlands. Could I forget that the Netherlands has a king and queen? That doesn't seem like a royalty, but right, royal kingdom, but they are. They will be coming to the Oval Office at 11 o'clock today. This afternoon, President Obama will be meeting with the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative leaders in the East Room of the White House. and we have our daily briefing with Josh Earnest today at 12:30. Lots to talk about. Lindsey Graham announces today. Martin O'Malley announced on Saturday. That and more with Sabrina Siddiqui coming up at the top of the next hour. So stay with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers Free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, "Not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution." For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America, by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
extend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, get out your cell phones and make all the calls you want today to anybody you want and say anything you want, no matter how mean, no matter how nasty, no matter how obscene, because the NSA is not listening in. We don't know how many days of phone freedom we have, but we got at least today. We're calling it Phone Freedom Day on the Bill Press Show. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Happy Monday, June 1. Hope you had a good weekend. Ready to dive into the news of the day here on the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, right in the heart of the action. Join the conversation anytime. Join the fun. Join our team here and join our guest. She's often sitting in this seat where I am. Today she's here as a guest and a friend of Bill for the entire hour. Sabrina Siddiqui, now from The Guardian, on the road in South Carolina this week, on the road with on the job watching the Senate last night with NSA. Hello, Sabrina.
Hi, how are you?
This is
Sabrina. Hi. See, are you used to this now? You know about this now.
You know it's coming now.
You mean Avery Friedman?
Yes.
No, you missed that.
I get the special treatment.
Bill can't even get the names of the staff right this morning.
Well,
I called him Avery Friedman.
I had an issue with one of the fill-ins for Cyprian, Neil Martin, where I just blanked on his name because I had never met him and I forgot to take it down.
Oh.
So it was super awkward, but then I made it up to him by never ever forgetting again.
You're the only one that remembers that name.
I still remember it, and everyone's like, who's that guy? I was like, well, he was filling in once for Cyprian.
Peter Ogburn and Elise Murphy, do you know them? Have you
I know
yet?
Elisa. I don't. This guy looks a little suspect.
Yeah. Thanks for
that
coming
beard. I don't know if I trust it.
Right.
Is
Be
it
careful.
sensitive?
And we also
What?
Someone called in and said I look like the dad from Family Circus. The comic strip.
Oh, I thought you were Family Guy.
No.
No.
He
I
doesn't
saw
have a
that
beard.
cartoon.
Yeah.
You do.
I grew a beard to counteract.
Right.
Okay.
And we've already said hello to our videographer, Avery Friedman. And then we have our screener here to take your calls, Neil Martin, on the phone.
Holy cow.
He'll take it.
No, it's Jamie Benson.
This is great.
Remember that, Sabrina, next time you're in.
I will.
Take a note.
Take a note. Right.
He was there for my last show.
That's right.
That was the first time we got to meet Jamie and I. Right. Good guy.
Join the conversation anytime at 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. And you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yesterday, a journalistic milestone when Bob Schieffer, after how many years as host? 30-some years as host of
30-something, as the host of Face the Nation.
Face the Nation. Said goodbye, surrounded by his staff and all the people, all the producers and the bookers and everybody on the show. It was a huge crowd, and he wanted people to see it takes a village to put that show together. Here are his final comments.
And that's it for us today. As I say goodbye for this last time as moderator of Face the Nation, I want you to meet all of the people who have worked so hard to make this broadcast what it is over the years. Face the Nation was here long before I came to CBS. I know I'm leaving it in good hands. I want to thank our team, and I want to thank all of you for watching. It takes a lot of folks to get this show on the air, and I'm really proud of all of them. So here they are, and I want all of you to take a bow.
What a class act. A great friend. Proud to have had him on the show here, our show, many, many times. The bad news is we won't see him any morning on Sunday morning, but the good news is he'll have more time for the Honky Tonk...
Honky Tonk Confidential.
Honky Tonk Confidential. His band. It's a great...
phenomenal Honky Tonk
Western band.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah.
Everybody should go read his one of his books, by the way, What I Couldn't Tell You on TV. Is such a great... I mean, if there's a young journalist or someone in your life that's thinking about getting into journalism, it's such a good book. It's so phenomenal.
And another one, I think, called This Just In.
This Just In is another book he did. But Schieffer is
great.
nails. I'm really going to miss Bob Schieffer.
So Sabrina's here the entire hour. So a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by Annie Linsky, a new friend of the show, who's from the Boston Globe, now here based in Washington, D.C. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to Texas, where legalized marijuana is not a reality yet there in Texas. But late last week, Governor Greg Abbott said that he will sign into law a bill that allows epilepsy patients to use medicinal oils using CBD, which is the therapeutic component found in marijuana. So he's not opposed to medical marijuana. In fact, he's going to sign that bill into law, he says. So stay tuned. Who knows what the next step could be there in Texas, but this isn't exactly medical marijuana either. This is oils that will help epilepsy patients.
This is baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
But sometimes baby steps are what it takes to pave the way.
Yeah.
For Texas, you got to be grateful for baby steps.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Scary story from New York yesterday as a crane collapsed. And it was a high-rise building in Midtown Manhattan. It was delivering a 4-ton air conditioning unit to the top floor when it fell yesterday morning. The air conditioning unit fell to the ground. It fell 30 stories to the ground.
Good Lord.
Amazingly, only 10 people had minor injuries. Nobody was seriously hurt. Nobody was killed. 10 people had minor injuries. They went to the hospital to get the thing. Everybody's going to be fine, but good grief.
That sounds horrifying. Actually, a week ago I was in New York, and there was a car on fire outside my hotel that almost exploded.
Wow.
And it was so a lot of freak accidents happening over there walking down the road. And the crane, though, I mean, that could have been very dangerous.
It's 4-ton air conditioning.
Usually when they lift, I've seen people, they lift that stuff up. Last time I was in New York, Carol and I were watching them lift some great big unit into a building like that. They usually get everybody like as far away as they can.
Yeah. And good morning to Harriet Thompson, Bill. She is
Harriet.
A 2-time cancer survivor. She lost her husband a couple of years ago. She's a mother of 5. And she ran her marathon over the weekend. She is 92 years
I read this.
old.
Out in San Diego.
92 years old.
Life goals.
Yeah, right?
Seriously. In a marathon at 92.
The Rock and Roll Marathon in San Diego is where she ran. She is also, by the way, a classically trained pianist who has performed at Carnegie Hall 3 times. So she ran the full marathon, 26.2 miles. She ran it in 7 hours, 24 minutes, and 36 seconds. For a 92-year-old, that's not too bad. She ran across the
finish line. We need to get her on the show.
Yeah, by the way, she was chugging across the finish.
She was. She finished strong.
Yeah.
She finished strong. Good for her. Good for Harriet Thompson. 92 years old, doesn't look a day over 89. Good for her.
Indeed, yeah. When I saw that story in the news last night, I looked at Carol. She looked at me.
You got a ways to go, but
I don't think we're going to be doing that at 92. Sabrina, good to see you.
There you go. What are you blowing up over there? Someone hit you on the hip?
Well, it's Phone Freedom Day.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe
calls are coming in, baby. NSA. Yeah. You're not going to listen to my calls, right? Sabrina, back from South Carolina. Before we get to NSA last night, I just got to know. So you were down there for Hillary was there and Rand Paul, both.
Yes.
My people.
Your peeps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Hillary was there on Wednesday. That was her first trip to South Carolina since she lost that very contentious primary with Barack Obama in 2008.
How was she received?
Pretty well, actually, I have to say. There was a lot of anticipation of this visit because that was certainly one of the uglier parts of the contest. The primary there at the time had been roiled by racial tensions, thanks to some comments that Bill Clinton had made, seeming dismissive of Obama's candidacy, noting that Jesse Jackson had won twice there, and also saying that it seemed like a fairy tale, although he said he was talking about Obama's stance on Iraq. But, the African-American leaders had grown angry at the time. And I think there was a lot of build-up to how will they receive her there, because at the end of the day, African-American voters make up 50% of the vote. And the primary, and there could very well be the potential that they don't turn out or that they don't get excited about a Clinton candidacy. But honestly speaking, it seemed like a lot of those wounds were well into the past.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a disconnect between, and there was a lot of talk in Washington about how will they receive her? Are they still upset? But not really noticing that or differentiating between voters and whether they really remember that and leaders in the community at the time. And the average voters seemed perfectly fine with her and actually quite excited.
As a reporter on the road following the former First Lady and Secretary of State, what kind of access did you have to the candidate?
Well, I was in the traveling pool. So the group that we've created, there's been a pool created, which obviously within and of itself has caused some controversy because she's not the official nominee nor a president. So the pool, having a pool instead of just open access, has been criticized. But I was just following her up close, kind of. I personally did not shout out a question. She didn't, come to take any questions, but there was a reporter at one of her stops at a local bakery from CNN who shouted a question twice, and both times it was ignored. And it was not like a
hostile question.
It was, what are you going to do differently in South Carolina this time? So
valid question.
It wasn't exactly she can't talk about that. I think that she's been doing this quiet meet and greet. That's what she was doing there. And so, she didn't answer the question.
Right. So you're on home turf now for Rand Paul. He was there. No, not home turf. He's close by at any rate. Kentucky, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's in the South.
Don't call Washington home for any of these guys. No. He's also going by Dr. Paul now, not Senator Paul.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Dr. Paul.
They changed his official Twitter handle because that's how much they want to not seem. It's obvious that there's some optics there.
Yeah.
That they don't, because their whole thing is defeat the Washington machine, if that's your motto. Similarly, I don't think Marco Rubio, I've noticed, and I kind of want to look into this, his campaign calls him Marco. Like they just, every time there's statements, it just says Marco this, Marco that, like, your everyday pal Marco. There's no like senator, whatever. Like it's not official sounding.
Doctors are definitely more popular than members of Congress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see
So
that.
Rand Paul in South Carolina territory, again, a good reception.
Yes, he started out in Rock Hill, and an older crowd was at this first gathering of his. It was kind of local Republicans. And I think as the day went on, you got more and more of the sort of Paulites and really libertarian-leaning and younger, more diverse audience members. Because then he went over to Spartanburg, to this drive-in that is a must-stop for Republican candidates there, called Beacon Drive-In. And then he was in Greenville by the end of the day at this event called Pints for Liberty. A bunch of libertarian-leaning folks packed in an Irish pub. So excited. Literally, like, he starts this speech with, like, anybody here love liberty? And they're like, yeah. And it was like, anybody here think the Patriot Act ought to go? And they're like, yeah. And it's...
Raise your hand if you don't love liberty.
I know. Spoiler alert, they love liberty.
Shocked.
But I think that he was well received. And there's going to be a lot of parts of South Carolina, the really military stronghold, where they just don't agree with him.
How is he on the road as a candidate? Is he? I've never seen the light side, if you will, or
I was
the
actually
folksy side of Rand Paul. Is there one?
There is, and it came out more as the day went on. I think, he seems like one of those people where it takes him a little bit to warm up and ease up, versus like Marco Rubio, who I just mentioned, who's very jovial and loves sports, and he has young kids, and so it just seems like he can fit into. He's kind of like that Obama kind of like everyday guy quality. Rand Paul, I think, needed a little bit of time, but I was impressed. He's got a very dry sense of humor, and he can be quick on his feet. Like at one of those events where everyone was really excited about the NSA stuff, the lights flickered, like shut off for a second. He was like, oh, there goes the NSA again, and everyone starts like laughing. And I mean, he has the ability. He was talking to a couple kids who came up to him and were really excited, and I think he does have some sense of humor, but it is more dry, and he's not the most conversational. But people were coming up to him. He was doing a book signing. His book just came out, and he was trying to make small talk. He did go up to people at a place and introduce himself, and he was trying to engage, like, what do you do, and just coming up with some conversation based on it. So he has the, I think, ability to do that. Just it doesn't come as easy.
Back from the road with Rand Paul and Hillary Clinton on Bill Press and Friends. Our friend for the day, Sabrina Siddiqui, 866-55-PRESS. All of you friends are welcome to join anytime. Give us a call. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers Free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country, with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. we all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians. Amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Sabrina Siddiqui with us as a friend of Bill from The Guardian for the entire hour. We're going to be joined by Annie Linsky from the Boston Globe. We'll get back to the political front with Annie in the next half hour. Meanwhile, Sabrina, you came back to be here for the big battle over NSA last night. Talk about Rand Paul. He carried the day, kind of, didn't he?
He did. I think that there's a lot of analysis about the extent to which he's benefiting from this first presidential campaign. But you know what? He still is doing what he said he would do and intended to do, which was to block any kind of renewal from happening. He had objected last week to any short-term bill.
He objected a couple of years for the Patriot Act from the beginning.
From the beginning. Right? But there was a lot of, well, this isn't a real filibuster and he's timing it this way and that way. And I was like, you know what, though?
They all accused him of doing this only to benefit his
presidential campaign. I mean, this has been his marquee issue for a couple years now.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine if he didn't do anything, what the conversation would be like? Then it would be like, oh, look at this huge flip-flop.
He abandoned all of everything he believed in because he's running for president.
Because he's running for president. Kind of like that's what people said about drones, where he sort of has started to, not be as anti-drone. But I think, he's succeeded. And he's the only Republican presidential candidate who's where he is on this issue, or presidential candidate, period. But the only one.
He's the only senator.
Yeah, he's only a senator. He literally is. It's like him and because even Ron Wyden, who's been his main ally, supports the USA Freedom Act. And people could argue that.
So we have Phone Freedom Day.
Phone Freedom Day.
And how long is it going to last? Yes.
Here, hold up your phone. Like wave our phones in there like a concert. How long is it going to last? Let's see. Well, look, I mean, I think they will be passing the USA Freedom Act, and that's going to transfer the custody of the records over to private companies, to telecom companies, and then the government has to get a warrant and go through a court. They probably won't face much difficulty doing that. You can imagine Verizon's not going to say,
this is the middle of the road, now even
well,
Obama
you think there might be a terrorist attack? We can't give you this record. Right. I mean, I think people don't like the idea of it being the government. So that's that. If people do seem comfortable with the Freedom Act, I guess that is phone freedom in the modern era that we live in.
And that will be later this week?
It could be tomorrow. If they yield back time, it could be as early as today. I'm not sure that'll happen given the debate. So let's say tomorrow.
All the more reason to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah.
For this at least 24-hour period that we have here, free of the NSA. We'll be back with
This
Sabrina and
is the Bill Press Show.
Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers Free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians, amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Make it 33 minutes after the hour on Monday, June 1. Can you believe it? Here we go. The Bill Press Show, here from our nation's capital, and brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees. They are the good men and women who staff and service all of our federal agencies across the board. Proud to work for America every day under President J. David Cox, you bet. And for more information about their good work, go to their website. It's afge.org. Sabrina Siddiqui here as a friend of Bill. And we have been, for the entire hour, we started out talking a little bit about the politics of the moment. It got even more exciting on Saturday when former Maryland governor, former mayor of Baltimore, Martin O'Malley, made his big announcement.
To you and to all who can hear my voice, I declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States, and I am running for you.
Annie Linsky she is now with the Boston Globe here in their Washington bureau. She used to cover Martin O'Malley when he was mayor of Baltimore, I guess. Hello, Annie. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
And joining me and Sabrina. So tell us about Martin O'Malley. You've covered him. Is he a serious candidate?
Absolutely. I mean, he's been wanting to do this. There have been rumors about him running for president since he was mayor in, the very early 2000s. It was actually Bill Clinton, oddly enough, who kind of raised this publicly at one point, which, as a reporter at the Baltimore Sun at the time, and you have to remember, Maryland hasn't had a national candidate since Spiro Agnew. So it's been a while since Maryland has had a moment on the national stage. But there's
I wouldn't say that's one to be proud of.
I know, exactly. That's exactly the problem. That's exactly the problem. But this has been in his head for a long time. So is he serious? Absolutely. And I think he sees his path sort of through Iowa and through Bernie Sanders, through these Bernie Sanders activists getting excited about an alternative to Clinton, and then looking at Sanders more closely and thinking, whoa, this guy actually, is unelectable. But look, here's this good-looking, young, charismatic governor from Maryland who we hadn't heard of before, and he plays the guitar also, and he's got this beautiful family, and they were all on display. And so he has been, is he serious? Absolutely. And he's got for a guy who's polling at 1%, he has a very serious team behind him. Yeah. And that's a really kind of interesting thing that infrastructure is there for him to have his moment.
Is the money there?
Haha, that's a great question. I talked to some of his donors actually who were at the event and who have been behind him for years. I mean, of course they say that it's there. I mean, we'll see. He just launched a super PAC. I mean, he doesn't have on the Democratic side, he doesn't have a Foster Friess or a Robert Mercer or a big billionaire to come in. And even the Maryland, there are some big money people in Maryland, and they traditionally haven't been behind him. I mean, he's got a few rich guys who could write big checks, but he doesn't have a billionaire to fill up the super PAC. And I mean, the money is the big question.
So, Sabrina, you have been following Hillary Clinton around. She put out a statement welcoming Martin O'Malley.
Yeah.
Or tweeted welcoming Martin O'Malley to the race. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's one of those where it's what's the subtext of this? But actually, you mentioned Bernie Sanders and how he's not electable. I guess Bernie Sanders is there for a reason, and he wants to push Hillary on issues to the left. He's representing this progressive viewpoint that that liberals don't feel is reflected in the Clinton candidacy, but probably knows that his journey will end at some point. With Martin O'Malley, do they genuinely think that they can take this nomination away from Hillary Clinton?
I mean, do they think that? Does he think that? I mean, that's got to be in his head, right? I mean, I just don't think you could do it with that not being somewhere in your head. I asked the same question of his donors too. I mean, it's hard for me to sit here from where from where we are and think that, and then the sort of conventional wisdom is Hillary implodes, and for some reason the word is always implosion that people use.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know why, but it's so Hillary implodes.
She has had a tendency at times.
Right.
Well, because I think that seems to be like because it doesn't seem like there's a clear game plan like there is with Sanders, where we're trying to move her on this, and this issue. Whereas with O'Malley, it seems like more like I want to because in terms of painting a contrast, I know he talked about his main line that got a lot of traction, that the presidency shouldn't be like a royal crown passed from one family to the next, but applies to both her and Jeb Bush. And I guess that just seems to be the case, that why are we like anointing this next nominee, and hopefully she'll implode, and
I mean, that of course the problem is, should she implode, there are so many people sitting on the sidelines right now, like, Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden, who's obviously has family issues going on right now. But this has been in his head for a long time. I think that it's probably more likely that, say, Hillary loses, and then he's set up in 2020 to have a more...
Yeah. All right. Here's the wrap on him today.
Sure.
That everybody, it seems that things were kind of looking very positive for him until the riots happened in Baltimore. And then everybody said, whoa. One of the real causes of this distrust between the police department and the community is his kind of very, it wasn't the broken window approach, but it was a very...
It was that zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance. That was the phrase I was looking for. Right.
Yeah, that zero tolerance policing. And I covered police in Baltimore City for years. And I can tell you that has been controversial in the city since 1999 when he brought it in.
Now, he says crime went down. Other people say, yeah, but...
he says crime went down over 10 years, and he's right. He was not there for 10 years, however. And the minute he walked out the door of the Baltimore City Hall and went into the gubernatorial mansion, I mean, literally the minute he walked out the door, his replacement, a black woman named Sheila Dixon, on a dime, just switched that policy right off. I mean, it was almost her first act in office, and crime, that reduction in crime sped up under her watch, improving the relations.
So has that slowed him down or likely to affect his race?
I think politically, I think he's handled it very well, actually. He's embraced it. He was,
No, he hasn't. That's right. He hasn't backed down.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't said he's really kind of owned it. And he said, look, this is about, progress takes time and progress doesn't happen overnight. And, he was legit, I think he has handled it as best he can. And also as a guy who is so far behind and looking for ways to be in the national media. I mean, you look at, Matt Bai did a big positive story about him. I mean, he's sort of been able to get a lot of pretty good media attention.
Now, last November, granted, it was a terrible election for Democrats across the country. Nonetheless, Maryland, for the first time in decades, elects a Republican governor. Obviously, after O'Malley's team had made a lot. I tried to, in anticipation of his candidacy, draw a lot of attention to his record over there. Very progressive, perhaps one of the most progressive in the country. And to what extent does that hurt his ambitions? Because is it not going to be viewed by his opponents as some sort of rejection?
Like a referendum
on his own
Sure. I mean, it
tenure.
also, right, it gives the Republicans sort of a playbook, It gives them a playbook of his sort of Achilles heel, which is, he raised taxes, to close a budget gap. But it's funny, I was at a Democracy Alliance event and talking to some of the donors there for a Hillary story, but I asked them about O'Malley, and this one donor, who's one of the biggest Democratic donors, looked at me and he was like, O'Malley, that's the guy who turned a blue state red, right?
Oh, gosh.
That's
what I meant, though, because, I remember talking to his team at the time and saying, hey, what happened? And, obviously they're going to have to try and spin it any way they can. So it was like, what happened everywhere in the country? It was like, well, this is very different from the Senate and House losses because Congress is a different beast than the Obama effect in an off-year midterm election.
Right.
Maryland, which is an overwhelmingly Democratic for decades is a different story.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
even though Larry Brown was a nominee, I mean, that race was very much a referendum on the O'Malley governorship.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. And, Brown, did he run a good campaign? Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely not. But, that is a very good microcosm for, Brown was just the anointed nominee from the establishment of Maryland. And you look what happens when the establishment picks a nominee in the general election.
Well, Sabrina is just back from South Carolina, where the most exciting political event of the decade happens today when Lindsey Graham announces for president. We'll be right back. Take a look at all of that with Annie Linsky and Sabrina Siddiqui here on the Bill Press Show. We got room for you at the table. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians, amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp, plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you.
Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. Yes, indeed, the political front getting very crowded, even more crowded today. Over the weekend, with Martin O'Malley entering on the Democratic side, that makes 3 Democratic nominees now, right?
Right, and Link Chafee is getting in on Thursday.
Wait, Thursday?
Yep,
is it really?
Yep, yeah. So there will be 4, right? O'Malley.
Yeah, but Thursday, is that the 4th?
Yeah.
He can't do it on the 4th because that's the same day Rick Perry is announcing.
Well, his timing and Link Chafee don't always necessarily go along perfectly.
No, I guess not. Andy Linsky here from the Boston Globe, Sabri Siddiqui, of course, from The Guardian. And then today we have Lindsey Graham coming in. What are the plans for Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham is in his home state of South Carolina in Central. Closer to a military stronghold, given his position as the chief defense hawks in Congress, announcing his ambitious bid for president. And I do think that they know he is not going to be the nominee, but much like Bernie Sanders having a role to play, I think what they see this as is Republicans really want to advocate for a muscular foreign policy. Lindsey Graham, along with John McCain, has been, again, one of the loudest voices on the need for a greater use of U.S. military force and authority around the world so he can at least influence the conversation in the primary and then go from there, as Republicans with Rand Paul on one other side are dealing with this for the first time in a long time debate over how they view and how some of their voters view the issue of foreign policy, although I'd argue the majority are still very much in the hawkish camp.
So I want to ask the question of you that you ask of Annie. Does he see himself going all the way, or just there to influence the debate?
I don't. I really just don't think he I mean, look, no one's going to say that.
Right.
But I think he knows that this is a long shot bid for president, and like I said, he has a role to play. He can influence the debate, and we'll see though whether it helps or hurts people like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush, who are advocating for this return to or to not retreat from the more neocon foreign policy approach. I mean, the younger faction of Republicans certainly are not really there. At the same time, young voters do not vote in primaries. I mean, they just don't. So that's not going to be, I think. I don't think that there's going to be necessarily the debate that people might be hoping, because largely they're saying the same thing. Yeah. You listen to it; it's all anti-ISIS. It's all Obama has failed us.
So what does he do to South Carolina, though? Does he win the South Carolina primary?
That's an interesting question, because he's a very polarizing figure there. People love him or hate him. He fended off a 5-way primary challenge, maybe even 6 in November. The last cycle. Right. But there was an argument that the Tea Party had failed to coalesce around one strong candidate and get anyone really good who could have really given him a real run for his money. Right. So maybe it would have been a lot closer. But he's also very good at what he does, and I had very mixed results. I was asking this question, and there was one camp that said, he could win, but I think the consensus was still that Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, Ted Cruz. Those are the top 3, and Marco Rubio. So Lindsey Graham was like top 5 maybe, but it seemed like people didn't think
his own home state.
In his own home state that
we haven't talked much about Hillary yet, but Gene, calling from out in Chicago, has got a question about Hillary. Hey, Gene, welcome to the program.
How you doing, Bill?
Hi.
Good morning.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for taking the call. But anyway, I can give you the mood in Chicago. They love Hillary. However, if she lets this TPP slide and doesn't declare and lets this vote get by without a declaration, she's going to lose labor and everybody. They are really anxious, and they'll really be ticked off. And that's it in a nutshell. I'll let you go. Thank you very much.
We'll get some comments on that, Gene. I appreciate the point. The other candidates, Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders, we know where they stand on TPP.
Absolutely.
Right?
They've been very clear.
Yeah. And Hillary?
She's been very vague. I mean, your caller is absolutely right. It's one of these issues, especially on the left, that comes up again and again. But bottom line is she's going to need to win Ohio, right? How does she do that without the support of labor? I mean, and labor has been very clear on, they are really drawing a line in the sand on this vote. And they are saying, you have to be with us, because don't think we're just going to be there for you if you're not. This is where we need you. So, I think from a political perspective, I don't think she wants to be out there and abandon the White House, right as this vote happens. I think what she would love to have happen is to have it fail, and then she can say, oh, yeah, I was against that thing.
Yeah, I think my sense is that, the political calculation on her team's part is that there's the media certainly focused a lot on the fact that she hasn't taken a position, and people who closely follow politics and who care about this issue deeply are wondering where she stands. But we're almost a year out from the primary, and debates are not going to begin as early on the Democratic side with less nominees. But we have a long time even before she has to stand on a debate stage and answer to Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley and anyone else. So I think they're thinking we still have some time to watch where this goes and then to figure out how to respond to it. I mean, she could lead certainly from out front and get out ahead of the issue, but they don't want to do that. They're clearly being very cautious.
They hope it will fail.
They hope it will fail.
Before she has that.
And I think they think voters at the end of the day, but I think they think voters, when by the time she actually has to take a stand, that's when like the majority of primary voters will be tuned into this and they'll have a position by then.
I think she's got another week because it's coming up in the House pretty soon.
But she's like, at what forum is somebody going to force her to talk about it?
That's right, too.
That's what I meant. The debates.
Yeah. It's a bubble. I mean, the Hillary campaign, traveling in the Hillary campaign is...
Well,
it's like,
you know what? We count on people like you to crack that bubble. Okay. Hey, Annie, great to see you.
Good
Thanks
to
so
see
much
you
for coming in. Sabrina, you're home here anytime. You know that.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you kicking me out?
No. Right now I am. Yeah.
No, it's always great to be here.
Thank you. Thanks both to you. I'll be back with a quick parting shot. Hey fans, welcome again to Free Speech TV. That's Koch brothers free TV, maybe is what we ought to call it. You know how it works. We don't have any money from the Koch brothers, no corporate money, no government money. We are just Free Speech TV. And I know it's for all of us progressives. It gets kind of lonely out there sometimes. Everywhere you turn, you hear all these right-wing voices. Where can we find people who have the correct, meaning the left, point of view? Well, right here on Free Speech TV. There's no place like it anywhere else on cable television in the entire country. Only Free Speech TV. You know that. 24/7 brings you the best progressive voices in the country with all the news of the day, with good commentary on what's happening, with the best guests we can find. It starts out with me every morning, the Bill Press Show, and then we move on to Stephanie Miller and Tom Hartman, David Packman, Amy Goodman, and all the other great people 24/7 again, nationwide on Free Speech TV. It's like the country's only one great big progressive family, but like all families, we have to pull together and to help each other get through the day and get through our responsibilities. Our job is to bring you the best programming we can every day, which we all work hard to do. And we ask you to do your job of keeping us on the air. You know how it works. Told you before, but it's really true. No government money, no corporate money, no Koch brothers money. We depend entirely on you, on your generosity, your support for Free Speech TV to keep this great thing going. We've got a lot of fun items to maybe prompt you to make that to your pledge today. For $60, this is really fun. We all want to get rid of this, get money out of politics, get rid of the special interest money. So for $60, we're going to send you a little stamp that you can use on your dollar bills or on your $20 bills or on your checks, a stamp that says, not to be used for bribing politicians, amend the Constitution. For $120, that's just $10 a month, we'll send you that stamp plus a copy of the great book, Dollarocracy, How the Money and Media Election Complex is Destroying America by John Nichols and Robert McChesney. For $240, $20 a month, you get the copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, plus that stamp set, not to be used for bribing politicians. For $360 a month, $360 a year, $30 a month, the stamp, not to be used for bribing politicians, a copy of that book by John Nichols and Robert McChesney, and a Free Speech TV baseball hat. And if you can make that extra contribution for $1,000, you get your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner and invite you into the studio the next morning to meet our team here on the Bill Press Show. The way to make your pledge today, we encourage you to do so. Do it right away. Let's get this pledge drive off to a great start. Give a call at 877-378-8669, 877-378-8669, or just go online to freespeech.org. Please be as generous as you can, and we thank you. Pretty troubled about them. Look, I've never been a fan of Hastert's, and don't get me wrong, I certainly don't condone any alleged sexual abuse of a former student if that's what really happened. But if that student really felt harmed so many years later, why did he go to the police instead of hitting Denny Hastert up for extortion? And by the way, remember, Denny Hastert isn't charged with any sexual abuse. He's charged with taking too much of his own money out of the bank and lying to the FBI about it. But why is that any of their business? Isn't it strange? Justice Department never prosecuted one single Wall Street executive, yet they went after Denny Hastert for taking his own money out of the bank. Hey, folks, have a great Monday.
This is the Bill Press Show.